Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Maybe It's Spiritual.
Hi,
Hi,
good here.
thanks for having us.
So, last time we talked with Matt and Julia, and now we have a new special guest, Charlie. Welcome to the podcast, Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
Charlie. Hello.
Oh, so last time, for those who are just now tuning in, we talked about the Court Street United Methodist Church, and these guys are back, plus Charlie, to talk about Julia and Charlie's old house on John Street.
Yes. For everybody, for the record, Charlie's my son.
Yep.
So we lived there for almost
I think it
8
was
years.
7 years. Yeah, almost 8 years.
So we moved there when he was just about to turn 5. So
Awesome. So yeah, do a quick round of introductions and then let's get to these. I want to hear your tales.
sweet.
All right.
All right, whoever wants to go first, not everybody at once.
We'll let ladies go first.
You said that last time. Okay.
It's still
Hi, I'm Julia.
He's still a gentleman.
Always. I'm Julia. I grew up, born and raised in Rockford I lived there most of my life until I moved to Chicago for about a year. And now I'm here in New York City playing piano for a Broadway show. And I have been a musician my whole life, mostly in Rockford. Well, really until now in Rockford, playing piano. And I have one son. His name is Charlie. And you get to meet him right now.
Thanks for stealing the introduction. Okay. Hi, my name's Charlie. I lived in Rockford till I was 14, till I moved to the Chicagoland area. And yeah, I lived in that house for about 8 years. So we got some experiences.
Can't wait.
Well, hello, I am Matt Wandell. No relation to either Julia or Charlie, but also born and raised in Rockford there. Julia and I were co-workers for a little while and have been friends ever since.
Yeah.
And Matt is actually my son. So
And we're not entirely not related. We're framily. That's what I call it when it's friends family. Your chosen family is framily. Yeah.
family.
That's the more important relationship there. Yeah.
Exactly.
That'll be the second title of this episode, the family. All right. So yeah, so during pre-interview, we had talked a little bit about the house. Now it's time.
Yeah.
Just go. Start wherever. Who wants to go?
I could say.
I will just.
Oh,
sorry.
No.
No. I was just gonna say that as Matt and I were working together, we started hanging out because we both are musicians. Matt's a fantastic singer, songwriter, guitarist, pianist. I mean, he's a really fabulous musician. And
Well, thank you.
I should plug his music, by the way. He's fantastic. So yeah, we started hanging out a little bit, and I invited him over to my house.
Yeah. So I went over to Julia's house one night after work. And I forget why. I'm assuming you went to go like tuck Charlie into bed or something like that. So you went upstairs. And so I'm just kind of sitting in the living room there on the couch, which is facing the stairwell going up to the second floor. And I can recall like I'm just kind of like messing around on my phone or whatnot, waiting for you to come on back down. And I keep hearing these footsteps that are coming down the stairs and whatnot. And of course, it draws my eyes upwards, thinking, okay, here comes Juliet. No, nobody there. And this happens several times. And then I start, because I'm continually drawn to the stairs, I start getting this sense that in my peripheral vision, kind of like up at the top there, it's almost like there's this head that's kind of peeking around the corner. Now, I can't really get any sort of like descriptive sense out of it other than the fact that, okay, it seems like there's a head peeking around the corner. And my first thought is, oh, Charlie's just playing around. Like maybe he like went to go brush his teeth, and instead of like going back to bed or something like that, like he's just kind of like, he knows that I'm there. So he's just kind of like peeking around the corner. So of course, a couple of other times I'm, looking back up, expecting to see somebody there or a head peeking around the corner. No, nothing whatsoever. And of course, I don't hear, at least from Julia, I don't hear any particular reason up until later, which then all kind of like all correlates back to they're like, oh, that's why I'm seeing things. Okay.
She's just laughing over there.
Yeah. So I will allow you to go ahead and expand upon that.
All right.
Can I actually
Well,
bring something into that?
huh?
Can I bring something into that?
Sure.
That's the first time I've ever heard of anybody else having that experience other than me. I
Really?
that
Oh,
was one of the scariest things that ever happened to me actually in that house. I this was when I was staying in a room that faced directly towards the hallway. Remember, it was mom remembers the one that had the loft bed in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was younger, I would like call out to mom if I like wanted some water or anything. You know, I was like 6 years old, so of course I was going to. But I remember it was one night that I was doing it, and like like everything was just weirdly silent in the house. Like I didn't even hear the TV on downstairs or anything, which I usually would. You know, mom would be watching The Simpsons or something. And but I call out to mom a few times. I don't hear anything, so I start yelling louder. I'm like, "Ma, you know, I'm trying to get her attention." And I just hear like slamming, booming footsteps, like a few just start going down the hallway fast. And then they stop, you know, after like a second.
Like towards you?
Towards my room. Yeah,
Oh,
like
oh.
heading from the attic. Because
yikes.
that, I mean, even like, I mean, mom can expand on it later, but that's what it sounded like. That's where all that energy was originally coming from, like near the attic door, which is right next to also like mom's room at the time, I remember. And so I yell out again because I'm like, maybe it is just mom, or maybe it's like the cat, you know? I'm thinking, you know, it's probably just something like that. I yell out to her again, just again, moving closer to my room, just boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, I'm starting to freak out at that point, you know? And I keep like, I'm at this point, I'm screaming, you know, I'm terrified. I'm like, somebody is in this house. And like every time I scream, just do, 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 like louder and louder coming towards my room. And it was like I heard it right outside my door. There was the bathroom to the left, and I heard it like run right up to like right in front of the bathroom. And I couldn't see in front of the bathroom because my bed was in the opposite corner of the room. But I just remember like I was just crying at that point, you know. I mean, you know, I'm 6 years old. I'm terrified, you know. I think somebody's about to come into my room and get me. And I I yell again at this point. I'm like, it's just a shriek of terror. And I hear mom downstairs like, what do you want? You know,
It sounded like I all of a sudden heard him, and it sounded like somebody was like murdering him or something.
yeah, like she couldn't hear me, I couldn't hear her. Like it was like our voices were cut off from each other. It was weird. That's what freaks me out. Like, whatever this was, it sounded like it could cut off like us hearing each other. It was weird. But like it freaked me out. And that happened a few times when I lived there. And it was easily one of the scariest things that happened there.
It's funny because you telling that, I never really thought about that before, but I remember more than one time where you would be like screaming in terror, and you would say like, didn't you hear me? Didn't you hear me? I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Yeah,
And
I would be screaming the whole time.
yeah, and like I wouldn't hear him till he was like in total panic mode. And yeah, like the living room is right at the bottom of the stairs. You know, and even there is a door that closes there, but even with the door shut, I mean the house is so open, it was basically like a circle down there, you know? So it's like it was pretty easy to hear people upstairs or downstairs. I don't know. I do remember that now a few times where he would be screaming so loud, and I would almost react like, what the hell's wrong with you? And he would say, didn't you hear me? Can't you hear me screaming? Yeah, that's funny I mean, not funny, but interesting to hear you say that. I hadn't really thought about that, but those pieces together.
Yeah, and I didn't know anybody else experienced like footsteps like that. You know, that's. I mean, now it brings up
footsteps because it had that little bit of a curve to it or whatnot. Like it did a 90-degree angle there at one point and kept going up.
Yeah, the stairs did. Yeah.
Okay, like somebody's coming down the stairs. Like I can hear footsteps coming down.
It heads towards you, right? And like it stops right before it reaches the door frame where you're at. That happened all the time. It was oh man. I mean, it's nice to know I'm not alone in that situation.
Yeah.
a lot of people would feel chased in that stairwell or in the hallway upstairs. Feel like
Yeah.
something was right behind them. I just want to back up a little and talk about when we first bought the house. It was a house that had been foreclosed on, and it had been empty for about a year and a half when we bought it. And we bought it in the dead of winter, and the bathroom was barely functional. And I remembered that I had to get an additional loan to repair the bathroom. And Charlie's grandma was going to be moving in with us initially. She was staying with us while I was finishing my last year of college, like when I went back to school to finish my degree. So she moved in pretty quick, like while they were working on this bathroom and everything. And we didn't move in until May. And Charlie's 5th birthday was that June. But I remember when we went to see the house for the first time, it had been empty so long. And, so we go in, there's no electricity, and it's winter time. But I didn't get a creepy feeling from the house at all when I went in there. It just felt kind of neglected. It just felt very empty. And so, but shortly after we moved in, I started seeing a ghost of a man in overalls. Do you remember me talking about overalls, man?
Yes.
And I didn't tell Charlie about a lot of this initially because I didn't want to creep him out. He was really young. So I didn't talk to him about it really until later in life. Except for the Combi experience, which we'll talk about.
Jesus.
Oh
my God.
But and I kept seeing this overalls guy, and I sort of got this impression that he maybe was a farmer on the land or a worker or something on the land. Not that he had lived in the house. So
Is that because of the overalls, or was he also like wearing a hat as well, or?
I don't remember him wearing a hat.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like the shirt and the overalls looked like work clothes, but outside work clothes.
Right.
And I remember my boyfriend Stu was living with us at the time, and I told him about it finally. Stu was a total skeptic, did not believe in any of this stuff. And he goes, it's funny. He said, I swear I turn because I would always go to bed before him. And he said, I swear I turn all of these lights off downstairs before I come to bed. And every morning I come down to make coffee, there's a light on. and I'm like, well, maybe it's overalls guy. And he's like, yeah, okay. He goes, hey, fucker, if you're going to keep turning the lights on, you got to pay the electric bill. And literally, I never saw overalls a guy again. The light thing never happened again.
So overall man was like, I'm not paying no bills.
He was broke.
Right.
Overall man was broke.
Yeah. So but in general, so I was having this feeling like there was things in the house, but it never felt like overalls man was one of the few times it felt like the same thing over and over again from day to day. Typically I would feel things in the stairwell. I'd feel like I'm getting chased up the stairs. I would feel stuff in the upstairs hallway. But sometimes it would feel creepy when you get that feeling like something bad is going to happen or something bad is next to you. And sometimes it would just feel like you're not alone, but not necessarily a bad thing. One day I was napping in one of the rooms. So basically my room was at the front of the house and it took up the whole front of the house. And then there's a long hallway, and then there's the 3 other bedrooms and a bathroom all at the other end. And so I was in one of the bedrooms and napping, and in this place, as I'm like waking up from the nap, sort of that in between sleeping and awake, I saw in the room across the way, which ended up being the room that you were talking about, Charlie, that you were in, that had the loft bed. Mm-hmm. Charlie had actually been in all 3 of those bedrooms at one point in this day.
I got one room.
I saw a stream of people coming out of that doorway and going down the hallway. I mean, like hundreds of people. They did not look at me. They didn't acknowledge me. It was like they were waiting in line and moving through a queue. And they had clothes from all different time periods. They didn't even seem to really acknowledge each other. And so I started calling the upstairs hallway the train station because that's what it felt like. It felt like they were getting ready to like board a train or something. So I just wanted to preface with that material.
Oh man.
But one of the first times Charlie and I had a shared experience was do you want me to tell my part and then you tell your part?
Well, let's tell my part first, because mine wasn't exactly like while I was conscious.
Okay, sure.
Oh,
Basically,
But I feel like your part, like, I think I should tell my part first because I found out about yours the next morning.
good point. Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, this still
So,
says figures, by the way.
yeah. Yeah, this was when he was probably still around 6. I would
Yeah.
say about 6 years old. Yeah. And it was summer. I remember because my window was open and I was asleep and the cat was asleep on the bed with me. And I woke up startled because you know how sometimes when you have young kids, they will creep up on you in your room and just all of a sudden, does that happen to you, Matt, with your children?
yeah.
Like all of a sudden they're like there in your face or something. You're like, oh my, where'd you come from?
Scare the
You don't
living
even hear
daylights
them.
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I woke up with a start and I saw what I thought was Charlie standing at the end of my bed. And I was like, Jesus, Charlie, what are you doing in here? And he didn't say anything. And all of a sudden I realized that I'm looking at a really dark shadow figure of a child. And I was like, my heart just started beating so fast because I knew it wasn't Charlie. And the cat, Ming, all of a sudden jumped up off the bed and went scrambling down the hallway away from the bedroom. And my heart is just pounding. And the little figure goes, like kneels down, like behind the end of the bed.
Oh, that's
And I was like, holy crap. So I like climbed down the bed and look over the edge and nothing's there. But it scared the crap out of me. It was such an eerie feeling. And then the next morning, I'm making my 6-year-old breakfast, and here's what he has to say.
All right, my bad. I'm grabbing my phone charger real quick. But basically, what happened was I had a dream the night before, and it wasn't one that was great. It was an absolute nightmare. But basically, I was playing catch with it was a red ball, and there was this boy in overalls. And there was a storm drain right outside our house. Like it was like the actual shape of the neighborhood, of the block. It had Raph's house at the time. It had, the corner house. It was our block. But there was a storm drain right on the corner of the block, and the boy's ball fell in. And he went, how you could like, I don't know if you remember, Raph, but you can like open the storm drain, if a ball went in, you're able to climb down. Well, we did that. He climbed in and it started raining and he drowned. His name was Comby from what he told me while I was playing with him. But that's the dream I had. And that same night was the night that Mom saw the shadow of the little boy.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's just really strange for him at that age to be able to give me that detailed information about a dream about a kid who was his age, and the child who I saw in my room was clearly someone that I thought was Charlie. So I don't know, just maybe it's total coincidence, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I think Matt's probably thinking the same thing. The overalls. I saw.
Hey, I don't remember Charlie till you
Yep.
mentioned the overalls before, or I don't remember that part. Interesting.
Yeah. So
Like I almost feel like, because we kind of almost have a name, right? I almost feel like maybe that's something we might be able to find some sort of historical record almost.
Yeah.
To maybe see if there was a kid who passed away on John's.
Well, I do remember going to the library after that and trying to find some history on the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned, how there's that school that got turned into apartments, Matt, a couple blocks away called Garrison School. And
Yes.
the former mayor like turned them into fancy apartments. So I went to that grade school, Garrison. So all of that land on the North End was owned by the Garrison family, and it was all farmland there. So I don't know, but my house was also one of the earlier houses to be built on that. My house was like 125 years old, which, a lot of the houses in the neighborhood were not that old, although it was still old neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I didn't really find any like news articles about the property per se or anything, but and I didn't dig super deep either.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to jump in real quick because I didn't say this earlier, but like I also happen to be your neighbor. while
Yeah.
this stuff is happening.
That's a good point.
Yes,
I
yes.
had no idea.
Across
So
the street,
for
right
people
across the
listening,
street.
Yeah, I literally lived across the street from this.
Yeah. We really should have.
Yeah, I probably should have
Pointed
understood that.
that
at
out,
the
yeah.
I did that earlier. Yeah, that's how
No,
it started.
but like we also looked into our house, and our house was like also old, like over 100 years. Like there were like they at some point there was no record.
Yes, yeah.
The records just didn't exist.
Yeah, it didn't go that far back.
Mm-mm.
Because I had to find it on the fire department maps, and there was like, I don't remember if it was 5-year gaps in the fire department map. So it was like, it wasn't in 1 year, but like 5 years later it appeared on the map, so like sometime in that time it was built.
Yeah. So look,
Um,
our houses were like 100 years old, not 100,
mhm.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 million years old.
Well, that used to be the fancy part of Rockford. That used to be the upscale part
Yeah.
of Rockford, where they built the fancy houses.
Yeah. No, I mean they were all fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
Big.
main things I remember about your house is just like the huge columns in the front.
Yeah,
Like, oh, this house looks
it
old.
looked like a southern plantation
Mhm.
style house.
Yeah. Yeah, the giant white pillars in the front. Yeah, holding up
Yes.
the roof over the porch area.
Yeah, it was super.
Yeah. So really, from that point on, I feel like really once Charlie was probably, I don't know, how old do you think you were that we started like sharing our experiences with each other?
Like 11 or 12. It was only like a couple years before we moved out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was another time we had a shared experience. I don't know if you remember, but it was one of the times that I heard you screaming really loud,
Yeah.
like frightened loud. And as I was coming up the stairs, I swore I saw a small like animal run out of your room
I was about to bring that up.
down
Yeah.
the hallway. And then when I came in your room, you were like, there's a small animal in here. There's like a little dog or something. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I straight up screamed that it was a ghost animal. Basically, like I had a bed that didn't touch either wall that was like against it. Yeah, it touched like one of the front walls, but it had like 2 spaces on the side.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, I look over and there's just this little black mass going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth towards my bed and the wall, just shooting back and forth. And I just freaked the fuck out. I was scared, because I mean, I don't know what that is, it's running right next to my bed. I'm trying to sleep. And yeah, she comes upstairs, and I mean, even I saw it dart out the door, and I was like, oh. And that's why I find it interesting how Mom saw it run like towards her out my door as well.
Yeah.
So what did it look like? Was it, you said like a dog type?
Yeah, but because of how like it was sort of blurry in a sense, you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Because
And
it was going so fast. But
Yeah.
and it sort of had the shape like a Pomeranian, like a poofy type,
yeah,
like
I was about to say,
roundish.
I thought it was like a what's it like a not a Yorkie, a Schnauzer, I don't know, very small, very hairy dog,
Yeah.
one where like when it runs you can see all the hair fly around it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
And I do remember that being the first time that I recall acknowledging what Charlie saw and not trying to brush it off.
Sure.
Where I
Yeah,
said,
saw that too.
and that's why I say I don't remember how old he was at this point, but I remember sitting on his bed and going, okay, I just saw that come out of your room as I came up the stairs. And honestly, I remember seeing relief on Charlie's face because we both had been having all these experiences, but I didn't want to scare him by talking about it. But he'd been scared by himself, thinking he was the only one like experiencing these things. And I remember he started talking to me about the footsteps in the hallway and just, the noises he would hear up there. And it was interesting to start sharing those stories with each other.
Yeah.
Well, when it ran out of, because you said that you saw it run out of his bedroom.
Yeah.
Where did it go from there, or did it just
Towards my bedroom?
Okay.
It came out the hallway and then went towards my bedroom, or like the attic door, which is to the left of when you're up at the top of the stairs. I have to go to the right to go to Charlie's room, and to the left is my room and the attic door.
Okay. Gosh.
Yeah, but I was headed right for Charlie
Yeah.
because of the way he was screaming. Huh?
Did you see it multiple times?
No.